Okay. Oh, I see. Yeah.
We'll see.
Yep. I can't see anything.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. So there is a little delay, but let's close this out.
Now, who is that?
All right. Closing that out. Yay! So I think we're good.
Okay.
If not, oh yeah, we're good.
Okay.
It's so tricky. Now I understand with people who do this, who stream from Zoom to YouTube. Like it's like, are we live? Yes, we are.
And pretty much everybody does that too. It's really funny,
Totally. So happy Saturday to everyone who in the future, maybe we have 2 in the chat right now. Welcome to those in the chat, and welcome to my guest, Colleen Carlson. It's like, are we live? Yes, we are.
And pretty much everybody does that too. It's really funny.
I've got it. So happy Saturday to everyone who in the, hold on, I've got an echo. Okay. Hopefully that echo is not going to continue, but anyway. So Saturday, yeah, man, what a heck of a week. But before I jump into that, let me introduce Colleen Carlson, who is an amazing author and spiritual counselor. And we met through Kelly Rosano, an amazing astrologer, about a year ago, right? It's been about a year. Mm-hmm. And she has written 2 books, Free to Find Pearls and Sometimes I Am the Sky, which are both beautiful titles. And she hosts live prayers, weekly live prayers on her channel. I'm going to link those in the description below, links to her website where you can find her books, as well as a link to her channel where you can check out her weekly live prayers. And you do something on Sunday, right?
Yes, I do Sunday morning live.
Mm-hmm. Oh, awesome. Yeah. So I invite you to check out Colleen at her channel. And what's the name of your channel? Is it Free to Find Pearls?
Free to Find Pearls, yep.
Excellent, excellent. So yeah, welcome everyone, whether you're here with us now in the chat room or you're joining us later on the recorded version of this. And we're going to jump into today's topic, which Colleen and I, it's really the last time we did a YouTube live, we kind of came to this moment where we were like on the same wavelength in this topic of spiritual neglect, and we both resonated with those terms exactly, spiritual neglect. And it was something that I had been ruminating on, and then Colleen said she had been like also like pondering it for months, right? You said months.
Yeah.
And so we're like, well, let's do it. Let's talk about it. Let's put it on the table and have some conversation about it. So yeah, what I'd like to do is start calling. I would invite you to, let's define it. Let's like talk about what is spiritual neglect. And for me, it's something that as I think back over the years, it's sort of been this culmination, right? I grew up in a Christian home, and I've when I think back about my life, I can recall like examples of like where spirituality just became, I don't know, just kind of put to the back burner in terms of our cultural forefront of our mindset. Everything else became more focused on in terms of our society and our culture. And now we find ourselves at this place where there seems to be like this big boom in terms of spirituality. And it's almost as like there are people hungry for spirituality, like they're seeking, because I feel like we've sort of, to use a Christian reference, we've sort of been in the wilderness. We've sort of been wandering through the wilderness in terms of spirituality. And I'm not sure if that defines it, but I want to punt it to you, Colleen, and what's your take on it?
It's interesting. I think it's a huge void. I think of it as something that is secondary to the mind-body life that we live. It seems to me that unless we're absolutely desperate for God or for attention in some way, then all of a sudden we'll turn our focus. I grew up under the ideas and ideals of Christianity because we live in a Judeo-Christian society. So, but not religion per se. But that was still part of my life, and those teachings in a sort of a loose kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And I always felt personally that which was outside of me didn't satisfy me. And the only place that I felt satisfied was within. And when I say within, I mean doing those things that really demanded that I be present. And even as children, I think we're better equipped at being present, because I would watch my sons, when they were toddlers, play with their little army guys or their Legos or blocks or whatever, lost in that. We crave that as we get older, and that's why so many artists emerge and writers emerge, and people who knit and crochet, and because it funnels down into this narrow space where now we force ourselves almost.
Right.
But that's our spirit. We want to be connected to the present moment. I think prayer gets us there. I think a lot of things can get us there, knitting, whatever. But I think we lose the fluidity of life, and we get blocked, and we get stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, we're talking about, like signs of it and what we feel into it. It's just like, this is just part of like this fluidity of definition of like spiritual neglect. And there are actually a couple of things I wanted to touch on that you addressed. Was one key term that you said was void.
Yeah.
The internal void.
Yeah.
Growing up in a Christian home, I was taught prayer, but I wasn't taught to be present with God.
Yeah.
I was taught to communicate to God, but not to have that communion, not to have that very internal holy of holy presence with the Holy of Holies, and just going within. And I think that what you're speaking on, what you're touching on, is the void, when we don't have that connection with God or source energy, or all of the different ways that we define God or the divine presence.
Right.
That if we don't have that connection with that pure presence of the divine, that it does become an internal void, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's not there. That connection isn't there. And it plays out in various ways. And I think that what has happened is our culture hasn't identified that void. And that's why I wanted to have this discussion with you, because for years myself, and I've watched other people, like, and my clients, like, be in the wilderness of that void, you know, and not really knowing what it is.
Yes.
And so I think that's why it's important to define it. It's that feeling of not of disconnection.
Yes. I was just
And I
going to say,
think that's why, I mean, honestly, and I want to get your feedback on this. I think that's why we have so many dating apps and like, you know, wine bars are so popular, and I'm single, so you know that's the part that I see in our culture of like trying to fill that void. And then there's the entertainment industry, you know, it's like that's why we have so many social media apps, in my opinion,
yeah,
is because we're missing that and so we're, like you said, which is spot on, is that we're looking for those things outside of ourselves to either fill that void or to cover it up,
yeah.
because we don't know it's there. It's like we feel it, but we haven't consciously identified it and like said, oh, you know, what is this?
Yeah.
But what's your take on that?
I agree. And the other aspect, I'm so glad you brought up the social aspect, because I was going to say we go, you know, as people, when we have that void, we think that something outside of ourselves is going to fill it. So it's either, you know, food, a substance, a relationship, whatever. And I don't know if this is in the Bible, but I think it's in spiritual teachings as well. And it's something like, or maybe it's just in a poem, I don't know. It's something like, God is the lover of my soul, or something to that effect. And it just came through as you were talking. And it's like, if we could, the other aspect, I'm going to interrupt myself, but the other aspect is that we live in this plane, okay, this plane of existence, whether we're single, married, corporate, non-corporate, you know, teacher, whatever, doctor, you know, mom, dad, whatever, we have been programmed, and I'm going to use that word and I mean it. It's a programming. We have been programmed to live in a dualistic world where everything is separate. I'm separate from you. This is my house. This is my country. This is, you know, everything is separated. There's a split, you know, my religion, that's how you get to God, you know, whatever the story is. And so because of that duality, we are then split ourselves, and don't feel, we can feel very unsure and uncertain. So we think that God is, we get confused, a lot of us, and we think God is our relationship to our lover, you know, and while there is a beautiful symbiotic spiritual connection, of course, in our relationships, we still aren't satisfied. That still doesn't satisfy. You know, I have a beautiful relationship with my husband, but my relationship with spirit, with God, with, you know, the universe, when I am one with that, there is nothing that could fulfill that. I mean, I'm a mother, you're a mother. The way we love our children, you know, is very deep, is very rich, but we still all need that connection. And then we find it ironically, even in the dualistic nature, we find it, if we're looking for it, with one another too, but not in a desperate plea, you know. That's where the void is. As soon as you feel desperate, you know, if the only time that you seek God is when you're screaming out for help, you know, you're missing it. I mean, we miss it. So there's so many things to talk about. It's like I don't know where to start. But I think for everybody listening right now and in the future, when when you're misaligned,
Absolutely.
when you have the excesses of, meaning the overindulgence of the mind body, because your spirit will feel empty. You will be in a room full of people. You will be making gobs of money. You will be, you know, all the stories, and you still feel alone, and you still feel, you could be in a church, you could be in a church with a massive amount of people and feel like you're not connected,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it goes back to what you were saying about the like the programming.
yes,
That's part of the programming, right? All of these things that you mentioned, like the relationship and like you're in a church or you're in some sort of organization and you're going through all of the motions. That's part of the programming.
yes,
Oh, okay, well, if I do this and I act this way and I, like cross my T's and dot my I's, then that's going to make that relationship. No. And I
right,
think that it's part of that spiritual neglect. It's not like as if we're like, just throw it
right,
all to the wayside. It's just that we've been programmed with these like other shiny things that catch our attention, that capture our attention. And
right,
they're like, oh, well, if I get the followers, if I get
yeah,
the big bank account, if I get the trophy relationship, like all of these sparkly things that you're talking about, we're just diverted,
yeah,
and the spiritual neglect just kind of happens. It's not to anyone's fault.
right,
I've done it. I've lived it. I looked for the perfect relationship and I found it. I've found so many perfect relationships.
I love you.
I've met so many soulmates and I've met my twin flame. And again, like
So,
it it was divine.
mm,
I could feel the presence of the divine, but it doesn't replace that connection, that
right,
personal internal connection with the divine. So which leads me to the next thing I'm not sure if we really completely defined it, but we threw some things out there. It's not like we wrote out a definition. I think that people are getting a gist of what we're talking about. I wanted to just jump on and say, hi, Franny. Thanks for joining us. Franny
oh man,
listening. So thank you for being here. But yeah, what sort of, we've kind of danced around it, but what does spiritual neglect look like? Like what symptoms, I have people ask me all the time, like, what are ascension symptoms?
mm-hmm.
And I think it kind of ties in with, in a way, like it's like two different platforms, right? But what are the symptoms of spiritual neglect? And you kind of touched on that, but let's expand in that because I really want people to get a feel of, because it has gone unseen for so long.
Yeah. Okay, that's huge. I mean, I think it's huge. So some of the symptoms of it would be that you don't feel connected to anything. I mean, you just, no matter what you do. And then of course, under that heading would be, sadness, anger, frustration, and then we could go to the body, what happens to the body, the physical ailments that all of a sudden show up and we think, oh, must be something I ate. We'll point to all these different things.
Right.
And it may be, but um, I think there's probably when people come to my practice, I'm there for their spirit. Okay, so of course things dovetail because we're mind, body, and spirit. So we think, we emote, but I'm there for their spirit, and sometimes they're so disconnected, they're so blocked from that. I'm sure that happens for you too. And the first thing that happens when there is a breakthrough is they cry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they're not crying because they're sad. They're crying because it's relief.
Right.
And I welcome those tears. I mean, I welcome them in myself. When I get to that place, in fact, I used to say to my husband, I still do, if I could cry right now, I know that I'm going to get some good information. If I could get to that place. So the symptoms, I would suggest that rather than me trying to define the symptoms for someone, I would suggest that those who are listening, just ask yourself, like, what's happening for me? Do I feel empty in any way? And it is the truth that when you become present, you are void of nothing. And so the imbalance, we know the imbalance. We know it. We don't feel right in our physical selves. We don't feel right emotionally. Everything feels off. I mean, anger is a sure sign of quite a bit of neglect. Anxiety is another one. That's a long term,
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, I suffered from anxiety attacks, which was a post-traumatic stress disorder, but also anxiety for a current situation that I was in about 10, 12 years ago. And I was in a church and I was so stressed out being there, I couldn't define it. And so you might be in situations that you can't even define, your relationships, your job,
Right. Mm-hmm.
but you might start feeling anxious. And so I think there's a lot of physical. I mean, do you think there's a lot of physical, and emotional?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, you nailed it as far as the emotional part. Like, anger is definitely a big one. If you feel, and I too, I'm a spiritual guide, and so I work with people in that realm, of this spirit, mind, body. And anger is a big one. And anxiety is, I would say that anxiety is a pandemic.
Yes.
And it's a sign of this the neglect of the spiritual body. But yeah, definitely anxiety is a big one, and I consider it a sign. And going back to your question, what I've discovered is that some people are so depleted in that area of their life that they are even detached from their body.
Oh, yes.
And I think that's why there is a lot of substances that are popular in our culture to numb that.
Yes.
Whether it's social media or something that we consume, anything that distracts and has a numbing effect.
Yes.
I think that's a lot of the reason why they're so popular. It's such a popular trend in those things because people are detached from, and it is. I say it with assuredness that it is a pandemic.
Yes,
I mean, I experience it. I work in a clinic. I do this 7 days a week, 24, well, not 24, but 7 days a week. I'm doing some sort of work around this, and it's a pandemic in terms of people being detached from their body until something, like you said, comes crashing down. It's usually a physical illness.
Right.
I mean, come on. It's like the top two diseases in our nation is cardiovascular disease and cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those point to, when you approach it from a spiritual viewpoint or an energy viewpoint, and look at the energy, those both are pointing to a lack of like being in one's body, and then further, even deeper, the spiritual aspect not being. Cancer is something, it's an energy that eats at you.
Yes.
Which is anxiety, right? It's this energy of something eating at you. Okay. And so, yeah, it's that people come to me, I feel like I ask them, how are you feeling? This is actually perfect. I want everyone who's listening, how are you feeling in your body?
Yes.
And I think that is an answer to us expanding into this spirituality, is
Mhm.
identifying, how do I feel right now in this moment in my body?
Oh, good.
And then take it from there. Once we can tune into how we're feeling into our body, then we can expand into that, going back to the beginning, that going into the presence of the divine.
Yes. And finding where the blocks are, you know.
Totally.
Um, you said cardiovascular too, and that's the heart. And you think about the heart, what is the heart? The heart is love, care, emotion, giving, loving. And then people have blockages. So
Totally.
they're always
Absolutely.
blocked. And yeah, that's no surprise. That's no surprise to me.
No.
Um, and I think finding balance, if we can find balance somewhere, if we can find out where those blocks are, what they are. Sometimes I found that the physical manifestation in the body is actually caused from, or the result of, some emotional or relational blockage, and then once that relationship situation or emotional situation gets resolved, so does the physical. And then we get more aligned, and we feel whole. You and I, we are spiritual. And I was just talking with someone, and I was saying how, we can also be misaligned trying to live too spiritual and forgetting, the mind body,
Totally.
the physical world that we need to navigate.
Mhm.
So I guess the point is that we can recognize when we're misaligned,
Mhm.
and we can figure out, we have so much power. And this is the part of the programming, the boxes that were put in, the books that we're told to follow, and the people we're told to follow, and all of that. And we're being kept from such a great, beautiful piece of wisdom within us. And that is that we have the power within us to understand, to know, to heal, to become all of the things that a thriving life is to be.
Mhm.
And I don't want to blame anyone or any system, because I think that at the core of many of these designs, I want to believe that they start out to help
Mhm.
quantitatively,
Mhm.
okay, but qualitatively is the one-on-one, is
Mhm.
the connection to the divine source, where you get your information, my relationship to you, my relationship to, our relationships. So I think that it starts out with something that's good, and then the ego, takes over. And then we think we're supposed to follow that. And it's then we split, we become dualistic. And
Right.
and then it's all, the answers are outside,
Yeah.
that he's going to make it right, she's going to do this, and it's going to be great for me. And we keep looking outside, or God, where are you? I need you, but we're not doing anything to be connected to source. So,
You're right.
and I'm preaching to myself when I'm saying this.
I
Yeah,
know it takes work, doesn't it?
it does.
It takes work, just like with anything else.
And
It's like, if we eat junk food and
yes,
we don't exercise, then what's our physical body gonna do? We have to exercise, we have to eat in order to maintain the level of health that we want.
yeah,
And it's the same with spirituality. You have to do those things. And I love that you brought up the balance, because it's so important. And I haven't noticed it so much recently, but a few years back, I would say in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was like a trend, and I'm not knocking it. There's no judgment here, but I would say the new age community
Yeah.
got way out of balance.
Yeah.
Way out of balance with like there were people like wanting to leave the planet, like astral project off the planet. And I was like, wait a minute, like, and I include myself in that, it was like, it seemed so lofty.
Yeah.
It was so lofty and so light, and it was easy. And, the ego was like, oh, that's so much better, and it goes back into that dualistic, of the spirit body is better than the physical body. But,
Right.
but it's kind of like, you guys, what did we come here for?
Here.
We came
Here. Yeah.
here to Earth to have this physical experience. That's why we're here. So I love that you brought in that element of balance, because that's definitely important to balance out the mind, body, spiritual
Yes.
parts of ourselves. Is there
Yeah.
anything you wanted to add to that?
Actually, I wrote a couple of things down. I guess I'll just add that we can ask ourselves some questions. We can say to maybe help us find some answers for ourselves. And one was, where does life flow? So where in our lives is there actually a flow where we feel where we don't feel uncomfortable being around, say, a person or a situation? Where is there actually a flow of energy? And you might define that for yourself. That this is the language I speak, but you might define that for yourself in, where does it feel really good to be?
Right,
Where do
right.
I feel really good? Oh, I love being with so and so when we meet for coffee.
Right.
When you find that place, and it could just be one place, you don't have to think about many places, but just that one place where you feel a flow of energy, you feel at peace, you feel good, you look forward to those times, then start defining why. Why does that feel good? Why do I feel like I'm in the flow? Why, and once you start to do that, you actually open up your heart chakra, because you open it up because you realize, and you may have an open heart chakra anyway, but you will open it up and expand it even more. And then you will realize that those are the situations. Now we are 3D, we're mind, body, spirit, we're people. So we have to manage our 3D world, but I can tell you that you can do it and be spiritual. I was changing nappies when I had my children. I became a stay-at-home mother. I was a career woman. I became a stay-at-home mother, which was a total 180. And one time I was changing my son's diaper, and I started crying and thinking, what have I done? All I'm going to do is change a diaper. And I said, God, I need some help. Please help me with this. And within, I don't know, maybe for like 2 to 5 years, I was downloaded full songs with melodies, chorus, verses, everything. I am not a trained singer. I don't know music, nothing. I happen to marry a musician. So
just like, okay, here you go.
There you go. And so what happened was I was honest. And when we're honest, or you can say, where doesn't my life flow?
Right.
Where is the area where it doesn't? I don't really like this person, or this situation makes me feel uncomfortable. You don't even have to know why. Trust yourself.
Totally.
Yeah. So I don't know, just to expand, open up your heart, and you will receive information. It is that authenticity. It is that pure, honest expression, even sometimes kicking and screaming and saying, I hate this job, or I hate this situation, and, help me. I need some help. You will open yourself up to that, and things will come through you Beautiful stuff.
Totally, totally. Even, I've had those moments where I've had like a meltdown, emotional meltdown in those times. And if anything, when you're honest and you're just like,
Yes.
oh, I can't do this anymore, help me, and that's the low key version. But even if anything, divine presence will come in and just like, boom, like bring you in alignment. And then you're like, this has happened to me so many times where I'm just like, oh, I need help. And it's like, boom. And divine presence is just there. And I feel so supported, but I'm not cuddled. I'm not like coddled, it's like this very defining moment of like divine presence. And it's like, oh, I just have like this moment of clarity. Like I'm looking around, I'm like, it's not as bad as I thought. And I've got this. I know I can do this. I know I can get through this. Even if it's just that moment of clarity. And I don't mean to like, make it minimal or, minimize the effect, because it's powerful.
Yeah.
But even that alone, in those moments where we're like, what you're talking about, the authentic moment, we're like, help, I need help. But yeah, I think that knowing that and having that awareness that we can call upon divine presence, divine source, and God, however you want to approach it, like it's always there.
Yes.
And it's always ready to meet us. And as long as we're in that moment of that space of authenticity, and we're like completely open. And yeah, definitely, for sure.
We've been taught, and like I said, I don't, it's not like I'm pointing the finger at anyone or anything, or it's just that we've been taught in error. We've actually taught to be really good liars, and
To
not
ourselves.
to ourselves. And it's not malicious. It's not with malice, but we are taught to say, oh yeah, no, that doesn't bother me, or oh no, I'm fine.
Right.
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 And so we're supposed to be these heightened, enlightened, people, or we're supposed to be really strong, and however we define that. And so those are all lies. And I would rather have all of my friends and my family know that they could be as real, and as ugly sometimes, and as sad and hurt, and I would rather them know that authenticity, that pureness
Totally.
is really a connector.
Absolutely.
And the disconnector is the pretend, the liar, the one who just, oh no, I got it, and I'm cool, and everything's great, and and we all do that, and that's why we run away. That's why we run away to the substance, the things outside of us, and we, because we're not fed, and we are willingly giving away our energy, our power, and so if there could be moments of just realness, I mean,
Absolutely.
as mothers, we got to witness that with our children, that authenticity, and it helped me become more authentic. And so we're here, we can teach each other.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you brought this up, Colleen, because I think it's really important. It's just perfect that you brought it up. I'm a little giddy right now, because whether we're aware of it or not, and I think that most of the people who are going to be watching this are aware that we are on an ascension path.
Yes.
Collectively, the vibration of planet Earth and the overall collective vibration and frequency of humanity is rising. And Aquarius in the planetary constellation is helping usher in this new approach to life in spirituality.
Yes.
And, you know, it's going to get to a point, and I'm aware of this with other star beings. The star beings that I work with, they've made it very made me keenly aware that in other higher dimensions, in higher states of consciousness, that energy, we can't cover up energy. It's impossible. And because we're moving into this area of higher vibration, energetical vibration, and these higher frequencies, we are not going to be able to lie to ourselves or anyone else, because people are going to, they're going to see it. I mean, and they're going to sense it. Okay.
Yeah.
They're going to sense where our energy is at. And we are honing that skill within ourselves as we raise in our consciousness. And so it's like, start it now, start paying attention to your body. Go back to what you said, Colleen, about how did I feel when I was at that place, or when I was with that person, or when I was watching that television show, or when I was listening to that music? Like, how did that make me feel? Do I feel uplifted right now, or do I feel depleted?
Yeah.
Do I feel angry, or do I feel joy?
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel in your body? Because as you hone that, it's like, it works so well, because as you hone it, you're lifting your vibrational set point to a
Yes.
higher place, but you're also preparing yourself as an evolving spiritual being
Yes.
to this place to where that's where we're going, folks.
Yeah.
That is where we're going. Where
So
we will be able, like, everyone will be taken at face value, because there will be no room for lying about where our energy is.
the image that came to mind while you were talking was, the veil is being removed.
Totally. Absolutely. I love that.
And I love the the Wizard of Oz, the scene where, Toto, pulls the curtain away and you see Oz as this small man with this, and so that false presence, we don't need it anymore. Let it go. And I always say too, if see dark energy and darkness and lies and liars and all of that, cheaters and so forth, and that energy is not a creator. So if you are starting to right now, today, maybe you've been thinking about it since January 1 or whatever, of creating something, then you are actually starting the ascension, because creation, the newness, the beginning, it's not because the world says it's January 1st and the linear calendar says that. It has nothing to do with that. It actually has to do with the Aquarian age that's happening, and this beautiful split that's happening that we're a part of. We get to be here. We chose to be here.
Totally.
And so creation, if you're coming up with creative ideas, those are some signs. Those are some signs that you are part of this growth, this ascending, and get in touch with that. What is it that you want to create? You start, as you were talking, I was feeling I felt like a life force. Like I felt like you were pouring life into me with your words, because it was affirmative. I was affirmed in it. And so the creators that we are, the lovers that we are, the makers that we are, the healers that we are, we are also being exposed. We are also being open, and now we are aware of who we are. And some of you watching this, maybe that as well. But regardless of what the specific is, it is about creation. God universe is about creation.
Totally.
It's starting new and becoming. And yes, becoming can be painful, but it can really be beautiful. and most of the things that are given birth to are actually very beautiful. I can't really think of anything that isn't, even the bud, the birth of a child, an animal, whatever the birth is, the birth of your painting, the birth of your new skill set, the birth of your business, the birth of whatever it is. Grab a hold of that. If there's some ideas stirring around, those are coming from source.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. I was like, when you said creation is divine.
Yes.
And it is. It's like, and when you said that, I was just covered head to toe with truth bumps, with chills. It's like, it's so true. It's like, yeah, and that is part of it. That is part of
Yeah.
the emerging from that womb of spirituality. It's like we have, I'm getting a sense of, it's like we've kind of been burrowed down into a deep, dark place. We've just kind of burrowed our way down into this dark place.
Yeah.
And now it's like we are being given this chance through our creations,
Yeah.
to emerge from that and emerge and unfold in that expression of creativity, which equates with spirituality because of what you just said, that it is the expression of the divine.
Yes.
Through us. That too, creation is all part of that spiritual connection and allowing the divine, the creator of all that is, to express through us. It's beautiful. It's very beautiful. And we're almost at time. So I want to, I think that's like a high note, but I wanted to give you a chance if you had any closing comments.
I think one thing I just want to say is that finding our joy. I think finding joy, wherever our joy is, and finding that beautiful place where we can be present, even if it is a short moment in the day or the week. That's my hope for people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Find your joy, allow yourself that creative expression, and pay attention to how you're feeling in your body.
Yes.
Allow that to be your guide for sure.
Yes.
Those are 3 really good tips.
Yes.
I think. So just thank you all for listening. I invite you to share and subscribe if you haven't done so. I also invite you to check out Colleen's channel and her website. And also I wanted to let everyone know that I have a new group on Telegram. It's a new app, a lot like WhatsApp. I'll also link it below in the description. Thank you all so much for listening and being here with us. Just want to send out so much love to you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Colleen, would you like to add anything?
Thank you everyone for being here, and I'm just sending you love, and we are beautiful creatures, and we have a lot of power within us to thrive on this plane.
Absolutely. Amen. Yay! Thank you.